Hello, gamers. Alright, I'm gonna have to admit it. I'm kind of regretting not getting the Steam Deck. I mean, it's not like this thing isn't awesome. It's got great games, great graphics. Did any of you guys play Soul Reaver, the sequel for Legacy of Kain? Man, this game is awesome. Alright, time to get to work. I got some games to restore and then conquer, but ew. Oh my god, look at this thing. Yeah, that's nasty. I can't have this in my video. I'm gonna have to clean this up. Yeah, what you're actually seeing here, the light yellowing damage, this is caused by two things mainly. Either A, it's smoke damage, where the surface gets sticky and starts accruing all the dust and debris and gook in the air. That one you can clean off fairly easily. Soap and water, maybe some alcohol, maybe some goo off in some cases. But if it's not something you can clean off with those substances, it's probably light damage. Light damage happens with old plastics mainly because they used bromine to bond the polymer. Bromine reacts with light over long periods of time and begins to basically seep through and bubble on the surface, causing a yellowing or browning that bonds very close to the plastic. You cannot remove it with scrubbing or physical effort. You need some sort of a chemical solvent, something sandblasting it on an atomic scale. Now, if you are going to do any kind of bleach restoration, or in this case, peroxide, you're going to want to make sure you clean the surface very well first. Because if it's got any kind of soot or dirt on it, the peroxide is going to react with that, and you won't get the same effect if it's used up all of its reaction on organic matter. And on top of that, it'll take a lot longer to restore it. So even if you're going to be doing a full peroxide brightening restoration, you're going to want to scrub that thing from top to bottom. Now, I didn't know what this was. I thought it actually used to be a cassette tape holder or something like that, but when I went online and tried to find it, I couldn't. You know, if you search cassette tape holder or NES Cartridge holder on Google and do an image search, there's going to be billions of options. None of them are this. I used a program called Google Lens and took a picture of it from a decent angle that showed a lot of the dimensions of it. And Google Lens found immediately the other listings for this product. This is actually an original Nintendo Entertainment System cartridge container that was often produced by several different department stores as an add-on that they could give you with your game system for cheap. So when whoever bought this would be at Sears or something like that, sometimes at just department stores like Curtis or whatever, local department stores will have this there. And would have, and when you purchased it, you could take this home with it if you got blah blah amount of games or whatever. But they're still selling these. They're not manufacturing them anymore, but you can find them online on eBay and Mercari and stuff like that. But people for some reason think they're worth 20 or 30 bucks. I was pretty close to throwing this thing out when I looked at it like this, but I decided to try to do a restoration on it instead. And luckily, through the Google Lens, I did discover that this thing is a real authentic piece of retro gaming technology. Now, I also go over it with the Magic Eraser because, well, like I said, you want to make sure you get rid of any any surface level grime that might, prevent the restoration from working. So nothing works better than the Magic Eraser, and if you can't get stuff off with the Magic Eraser, then you're going to have to do RetroBright. But tinfoil in the sun, I don't know if it's going to cut it for this one. Look at how yellow that is. It looks like macaroni and cheese. Like, that's horrible. So we're going to have to build something a little better. I'm not a scientist, but I know a little bit of math. Put together a better version. Just yeah, that'll do. you can design a rudimentary RetroBright system in your house. I want to build a nice one, so what we're going to need is some nice reflective materials, some nice reflective tape, some zip ties, and I'm going to use my Blacklights. These are literally my Blacklights from when I was a kid, and they work perfectly for this kind of a thing. The build itself is pretty self-explanatory. Just put all the reflective material on the inside, get the lights strapped to the top, and you're pretty much ready to go. Now, the way the RetroBright system works is you're using a peroxide, in our case hydrogen peroxide. It's really easy to find. But a peroxide is any chemical that's got two oxygen atoms in a covalent bond, which can be broken apart by light exposure. So we'll specifically long form UVA light. It kind of just removes the top layer of almost everything there, but that usually gets down to the true color of the item. It's so fine that you're not actually like sanding the surface, but it's the next closest thing. Alright, so what I'm using here is a compound of peroxide and toothpaste, just like I did with the Nintendo cartridge. But because the Nintendo cartridge did have some streaks on it, that was mainly caused by uneven spread of the compound. I think partly because I had too much toothpaste in it, and it was a little too chunky. So with this one, I put less toothpaste in it, mixed it for a lot longer, and I'm just doing a nice glaze with the brush so that it's all over it. The goal here is to have the entire surface soaked with this peroxide solution. This is kind of an awkward container to saran wrap. Ideally, if you're doing these and you have the peroxide, you want to get a high concentration of peroxide. I'm using just standard 3%, so it's going to take longer, but it should still work just fine. I'm hoping anyway. But the peroxide that you could pick up, I think maximum with the right licensing here is like between 20 and 60%. I'm not 100% sure on that. That would be much more effective, and having a lot of it to submerge your item in would be the absolute best way to go. But this is kind of the dip your toe in RetroBright method here. Anybody can do it with household items for the most part. Now this process is helped by heat a great deal too, so the black lights actually worked perfectly for building up a reasonable amount of heat. It was around 90 degrees in the chamber itself for the duration, and that heat helps the peroxide reaction as well. So I left this one in for 48 hours, and as you can see, the saran wrap's different because I had to reapply some because it was in there for long enough that it actually did evaporate a bit. So this worked perfectly. I did not know it was going to come out this well. I'm actually really pleased with it, and now I've got a RetroBright container that I can do with pretty much any size item. I'm going to leave some links in the description below to just some items online, some tiny URLs for Amazon. Here you can see the comparison for you to, just see what kind of items to get. And the inside was really gross. But you can go with anything. I just, wanted to point you in the right direction. I also put a link into one of my favorite YouTubers when he did his much superior RetroBright build. So if you want to see that in detail, I recommend watching it. I don't have the biggest game collection, but I intend to go through all of these. We'll restore them and conquer them together. Well, I'll conquer them, but you'll watch me restore them. Alright, now that distraction's out of the way, what was I talking about? Oh, the Steam Deck, right. So I found one online, secondhand, for very, very cheap. I'm not going to say how much. Tune in next time and I shall open this bad boy. And as always, if you didn't know, now you know.